this job, and I was to go in the afternoons for 2 hours. And of course then they started to know what I could do, and they said, can I stay longer, can I do this, can I do that, until at the end that I was there all the time. But I had to employ somebody to sit with Auntie Polly, and I had to be very careful what I left with her, because if I'd left this pillow in the morning, when I came back it had been torn to shreds, and she used to tear everything up. And she used to have woolly stockings on, and when I'd come back there'd be a great heat round the legs, because she'd stuff all these bits down the legs. So that was her. And then she died, and Sue by this time was at university. I was married then, that's right, she was, to Ian. And she came one day and she said to me, Mum, she said, we can go shopping again, we can go out, because I'd never done anything. And I used to sit with Auntie Polly in the front bedroom, and I'd see Grandma and Grandad Littlewood going off to bowls, and they'd wave, and I used to think, I wish I could do that, I wish I could go, but I couldn't. And
So all that time when she was ill, the only time you got was when you employed this person to sit when you went to
that's right. And
school.
all the time in my young life, all I'd done was to look after sick people. So
had you been into teaching before this time?
Well, I'd only done this part where I did it part-time.
Right, so you gave... Right, okay.
But then, of course, a fortnight, 3 weeks, we'd gone to the funeral at a crematorium, and Sue sat in and she said, oh, Mum, I'm so glad you can come now, she said. And then it was Easter, and I was rubbing the date off, because there were blackboards then, and putting the date of coming back. So I thought I won't have to do that when I go into school. So I did that, left school. We were going to Sue's for the weekend. So Ian rang and said to Harold, Sue's in hospital. We've taken her to hospital. She'll be all right. We've taken her to hospital. But the children have gone to somebody called Barbara something. I'm at the hospital with Sue. Just pick the children up and go home, which I did. And Harold then decided he was going down to hospital, which he did. He drove down to Burton, to the hospital. And he came back, he said, oh, she'll be all right, she's all right. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, the bell rang, and it was one of their friends. He said, oh, I'm just taking you to the hospital. And I went down there. She was dead when I got there. And Ian, of course, was completely distraught. And
so it was in such a short time of the first indication to...
Yeah. So that was that. And so then again, I start, what am I looking after? I'm looking after my grandchildren now. And that's how it's been, really.
Don't forget Mrs. Harling in the meantime.
Oh yes, and then there was Grandad Harling, who had multiple... Oh, no, he didn't. He had... I'm saying multiple sclerosis. See, I am forgetting. It was the disease, which is a very slow degree disease, but it spreads through the system, and then they sort of drown in their own.
Yeah.
Horrible. It's what?
Is it motor neuron?
Motor neuron disease. So he had that. So then Grandma Harling was in a state and came up here always on Wednesdays, where I would, so Auntie Polly was still here then, so would stay for her tea, and when Grandad Harling died, she was distraught and kept saying to Auntie Polly, you don't know what it feels like being on your own. Well, Auntie Polly, who'd had a very hard life, said, pull yourself together, Mrs. Harling. So Mrs. Harling never entered this doors again. I'm not going in that house. So she left. So then, when she started being poorly,
Where did they live? Is this where Uncle Harold grew up still?
Yeah, so this is where Harold grew up in Lane Side of New Mills.
Oh,
So Grandma stayed there till she died. But then, Wednesday, I would take her meals over, or Harold would, and Saturday and Sunday. So there I was going over there, or she was ill. So that was another thing. That's another thing. Then that happens.